Which team is this, just out of curiosity?
Nationstar Web.
Nationstar Web. You guys are under Greenlight, or Nationstar Greenlight Web right now. We're going to move you over to NSM, customer facing, NSM Web, or GL Web, whichever web is. GL Web. So you'll move there. Rafi's in charge of making sure everyone should already have access. As you can see, all you're doing is going to if you're going to the Greenlight Web, you just go to Browse All, and you probably didn't even notice it was here, but you have access to the NSM one as well. Under customer facing, and then you're going to GL Web. That's where your work items will migrate to. Rafi will determine when the work items get navigated there. All that will change legitimately, like it's right now. You see that it's going to change to customer facing GL Web. So for the most part, relatively painless transition as far as your URL changing. You guys are using the other one already. You're already using TFS2013. You're already on the NSM side. So all the quote-unquote shock that a lot of people have to go through, you've already done. So did you guys set up alerts yet? Do you know how to set up alerts? Should go over setting up alerts.
Why don't you go ahead and go over, yeah.
Go over setting up alerts. So next to your name, in this case it's Randall Kelly, which is not my name. You go to that. If you notice, it pops up a new window. So you can still go to your TFS, but here's your other window. Scrum Masters have the ability to add items to the iterations, so that's how you have iterations for each team. But as an individual user, you're just going to be setting up alerts. So you're going to be setting up work item alerts. In TFS, all the stuff we're doing is dealing with work items. So whether it's a production backlog item, a task, a bug, a test case, all those different types, TFS calls those work items. Because I live in acronym world, I call them WITs because it's a work item type. But, so if you ever see something from me and it says WIT, that's the translation for that. We're going to set up a new alert for Randy because it looks like he has 0 alerts set up. So the one that I would suggest everyone do is a work item is assigned to me. That way you don't have to go through the different views or queries or backlogs to see what is assigned to you, or update it. Oh, I went there at 10 and something gets assigned to you at 10:05 and you're not going to go back till noon, depending how often you live in TFS. This will send you an email directly from TFS when a work item is assigned to you. So if you click on that and then you click on OK, it defaults with team project equals customer facing. So that means anything in the customer facing project equals that. You can change it to just be originations. He assigns you changes to me, so as in you, or you could potentially set it up if it changes somebody else and you really want to be alerted every time. Adam Coggan gets assigned something and you want to know about it, you can technically set up the alert like that. And the last one that's really important to keep on there is authorized does not equal me. So again, you went through, you updated a work item type, you assigned it to yourself, or you changed something and assigned it to yourself. You don't care to get an email because you did it yourself. So why do you want to get emailed on that? So you want to keep that one in there. Otherwise, you're going to get emailed when you make changes as well. So you click OK, and now you have an alert in the customer-facing project that and has work items assigned to me. If you're a QA tester that opens a bug, or a developer that opens a bug, or you have something that you eventually created, you might want to also create a changes made to a work item that I created. So again, so you created by equals me, and you did make the change, you'll get an email. So Randy's a QA tester, so I'm going to set this one up for him. So if he opens up a bug, the assigned to is going to change to the Scrum Master, it's going to change to the developer. It's going to change throughout the life of that bug. So he can get alerted every time it changes, so that way he knows, okay, it's, it went from, we're going to go through the bug flow in a second, but it went from the, triage group to the actual developer to work on. He's going to get notified automatically. What I will caution Randy is if he's going to be loading test cases, he might want to also add work item type doesn't equal test case, or equals bug if he just wants bug. That way, again, he's not, if he uploads 50 test cases for his entire test team for a particular time, he's not getting alerted every time someone passes a test case, because that will also fill your inbox up pretty quickly. I mean, granted, it's shift delete, but you can take that out if you want, or you can keep it in there. Usually for a bug, if I use this from a QA perspective, if I'm going to track the bugs that I opened up, test cases I'm going to work myself. Now, Randy wants to manage his people and see what their test cases are, so he might remove that later. I'm going to put that in there now just because it's fun. So that is, so there's other alerts you can obviously set up that are defaulted. As you notice, you could literally set up an alert for anything in TFS. So you could set up to anything. If you're a Scrum Master, anything gets added to that particular sprint, you can set that up to where, you know, you set up the iteration equals that particular iteration. So if someone's adding something to your sprint and you want to know, hey, why did they make that change and it wasn't me, you can set up that alert. So you're not surprised later when you go into your backlog and go, what is this from, right? So just another option for setting up alerts. I'll let Randy set up the rest of his alerts. I'm not going to go through and add more emails for him. So where did the PDF go, you think? Right there. So we're going to talk about bugs next. So we talked about work item types. So work item type that QA and management is also relatively concerned with in general are bugs or defects. I'm calling them bugs because that's what TFS calls them. Historically I call them defects, but I'm going to go with the nomenclature of the system. As you can tell, this worksheet it kind of iterates bug and defect throughout. So I'll kind of interchange as well to kind of match the workflow. It says tester here because in general anyone can open a bug, whether you're a developer, whether you're a Scrum Master, whether you're a systems analyst, whatever you are, if you're in the system, you can open a bug. That's the way TFS is set up, that anyone has the ability to create a new bug. If you identify something in the system that's broken or not working, that's why you're the tester, right? That's why this doesn't say QA or UAT. It's whoever tested or found the issue. They're going to enter a new bug/defect. The state's going to default to proposed. We had this conversation yesterday that you guys don't necessarily have BSAs or SAs on your sprint teams, but you have, you know, lead developers or people that they're going to do the triage of the defect. That's kind of what the BSA column's for. I can change it to slash triage. All we're doing is trying to keep it away from the developers unless it's an actual valid bug. So you're going to assign it to whoever your triage group is. So in the NSM side, we call them the BSAs. Whoever's doing triage in this group is who would get assigned in the BSA column. They determine it's a valid defect. They go ahead and change the state to active. If they determine it's not a valid defect, it's either a duplicate or it's just, you know, misclarification, they're going to go ahead and close it right away. And the reason you can change it in TFS to either reject it or duplicate.
So these are all the new options within TFS?
Yeah, these are all.
These are, well, we currently don't have, but we'll have.
You should have most of these. Actually, you might not have retest ready in yours, but you should have proposed for a bug. You should have proposed, closed, active, resolved.
I'll see those.
Okay, we'll
But that's all right. I put in when we go to the new. When I migrate over to Nationstar, we'll have them.
Yes.
Okay.
And then that will be, so then once it's determined that it's going to be a bug and it's going to be fixed in this current release, then it would actually get assigned to the developer. Once the developer has fixed the defect, they change the state to fixed. If you're right, that actually might be different. And then once it's actually ready for whoever opened it, the tester, to retest that bug, it's actually going to change to retest ready. Or I think it's ready for test, actually. I'll change that on yours as well. Two different states, same meaning. Ready for test. So that's whoever's testing that bug, that's when it gets assigned back to them, whoever opened it. When it goes to ready for test, it will go to them. Again, if they set up an alert, they'll get alerted to that, but if you don't reassign it, then they wouldn't necessarily know.
So to go back to ready to test, it actually has to get pushed out again. The fix has to get pushed. So
Right.
in your group, who's actually changing that back to ready to test? The developer that did the push?
So again, it depends. Different groups are set up where developers sometimes push their own code to let's say the QA environment. In other groups, they have a team, like the DevOps team, that pushes the code out to different environments. So whoever's pushing the code is the one that's responsible for changing the state. So if you're the developer and you're changing it directly and you're going to give it right back to QA to fix it, you're going to go from active to resolve to retest ready right away. If you're going to assign it to a third party to promote your code for you, then they're the ones that are going to switch it to retest ready.
So when you change the state to fixed, does that reassign it to, let's say, Hagop created bug?
It doesn't automatically reassign it. You're going to have to assign it for it.
Manually do it?
You have to manually do it.
So change the assigning back to whoever created it?
Yep. We'll look into TFS in a second. You can see the history really easily. If you missed the name, you can change the states on who did it. We'll look at that in a second. And then happy path. or for the bug. If it's closed, whoever opened it is going to go ahead and close the bug. If they think it's not fixed yet, they're going to set it back to active and get reassigned back to your triage group. That's bugs. And then we go over here. This is your current project, right? There should be bugs out here, yes, no, maybe? Randy?
On GeoWeb though?
Yeah, we're not
Oh, the-
looking at that one yet.
Oh, you're not
Those
worried?
2000, no.
We're still on.
Oh, so you're on the other, this one, sorry.
Yeah, the Nationstar.
Is that for support?
No, this is just a test, like literally it's a test bug, so everybody can play with it. So this is to the thing in Greenlight, you can see this is the Greenlight project. Transformers is one of the servicing sprint teams that were running Agile, so we didn't have a place to put them. So we stuck them in the Greenlight project, because at the time it was the only TFS project set up on the Scrum template. The rest of the Nationstar projects are set up on the CM01 template. It's just different TFS template types with different workflows. So this is a new roof bug.
So this bug is not tied to a feature, this is just when you, I think
Right.
in home, you select bug or, okay.
Right, so this again, and then, so the history, if you didn't know who assigned it, was always going for. So Faizan opened it, so if you're the one resolving it, you can always go to the history tab to get the name of the person that created it, and then you could potentially reassign it. You can assign it to Randy, I think, and then he'll get an email. You guys can see the alert.
Randall killed it?
That's right. Hoggle.
So then we'll see it. Well, actually, it's gonna go to your,
Casual.
just the one
Birth certificate, right.
thing, it should actually go to, it's gonna go to this account. If you want it to go to your Greenlight account, you actually need to call the help desk and get your Active Directory email account changed. Otherwise, it's gonna go to your Nationstar account. So if you don't check your Nationstar account, because all this access is controlled by your Nationstar access,
If we have automatic forwarding right now, then we're fine.
you're fine, yeah, we'll go there then as well. But I know like some people don't have automatic forwarding based on timeline or whatever. So if you don't have automatic forwarding, then you have to go call the help desk and get that changed. Because you can go ahead and change it on my profile, and I can change it to rkelly@greenlightloans.com. The issue is, as soon as Active Directory refreshes, it's going to overwrite your change. So unless you really want to spend all your free time back and fighting with Active Directory, just call the help desk and have them change your Active Directory email account if you don't have automatic forwarding set up. I don't know eventually if they're going to get rid of the Greenlight loan type things at email addresses or whether they're going to migrate you off. That's above my pay grade or out of my scope. But for right now, that's the only way I know to resolve it. Because we have the same issue for when we bring contractors into Nationstar, we just put in their, their TCS or their Cognizant email addresses, and that's what defaults into their AD account. So then they never get it on their Nationstar email because their AD account was set up with that old email address.
It's probably Mark's issue with his account getting dropped all the time.
So that in general is, that's why that in here should show. So that's where kind of the alerts go up. So that's really all I had as far as TFS bug flow and workflow. A lot of the other conversations have been driven by questions. If you guys have questions, like, you want to answer them?
Just in general, like for the Nationstar you have 2013, right?
Yes,
We have 2012 on outside right now.
correct.
Okay, so we're going to be using the new version.
Yeah, everything on the, Dan a couple weeks ago, like literally just kind of told me on Friday, oh, by the way, we're upgrading to 2013. So he migrated all the TFS projects to 2013.
Except us.
Well, you guys are in Greenlight. This is actually,
Oh, the Nationstar, right?
yeah, so like this is, so like one you're using right now is TFS 2013. So if you're using the Greenlight/NSM Web, which looks like you are, maybe? This isn't yours? I thought Rafi put your stuff here.
This one for JStream.
Oh, JStream.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
Yeah,
is the
for the
Greenlight
NSM
web.
web.
So
It's
that's
just
NSM
Nations,
Web.
yeah.
NSM Web. So there's no GL Web stuff on here?
policy? I don't
No.
think so.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
Oh.
Sorry, I saw web and thought it was the same, but yeah, no. So if there's nothing there, that's why. So if you're still using the Greenlight project, as in the one hosted by Greenlight, then yeah, you're on TFS 2012.
Right. And we will migrate, it's just a matter of when, sounds like soon.
Yep, the idea is kind of when you wrap into the next sprint, work with the Scrum Master, and it's relatively quote-unquote simple to migrate work items from one TFS to the other. You just export it to Excel and then reload it via Excel to the new project. So that's quote-unquote easy process, it's just all the other nuances of that.
Does it capture the old past items too?
We're only, for a cut forward process, we're only moving outstanding tasks and production backlog items. We're not moving the old ones. The biggest reason for that is we can't quickly move attachments. So we don't want to go through the process of going through all the old ones and taking attachments and reloading them, unless someone's really got a lot of free time on their hands.
So actually, we're in mid-sprint right now, or not mid-sprint, but in between sprints. So our sprint 10 is ending, and our sprint 11 is beginning.
Okay.
So this might be a good opportunity.
Okay, so yeah, I can sit with you today. And
Yeah,
try to
that'd be
work on that.
great, because I'd rather, so this doesn't impact the code behind, like the
Code,
builds and the development code.
code Dan's taken care of. In general, I know I think he migrated most of the Greenlight code over to Nationstar's TFS, correct? I thought that most of the code was already migrated.
I don't know,
Okay.
maybe.
I wonder if I need to, Rafi's in Dallas, and I know he's flying at some point today. I'm wondering if I need to confirm. Are you here tomorrow?
No, yeah, I fly back at, my flight's like 7 tonight, so I'm here for a long day.
Okay.
Or short compared to his day, depending on what you look at. Long compared to
But I
mine,
can
it's
live in, I
6.
can live in two systems, like we can migrate over to 11 or
Yes,
13.
yeah, because this is just the front end, like
Okay.
work item type manipulation. If your developers aren't linking tasks directly to code, which no one in Greenlight was initially, we confirmed that with Rafi and Carson before, you can actually link code to tasks.
Okay,
No one here was doing that, so it's not a real impact from that perspective.
okay.
With the new board, is there, on the board itself, is there a new swim lane for bugs or anything like that, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
nice.
so there's the board. You can turn off the
Colors.
different colors, work item types. Yeah, if there's a swim lane for it's actually gonna only be in the new project because we didn't add it here. There is a swim lane for the retest ready, will get added to that
Because
view.
I know that they had talked about having that added.
Yep, and Tony took care of that last week.
Can we go through the bug flow again, just, and on an active bug, not the PDF?
Sure.
So is there certain reports that you guys are expecting out of TFS, like Scrum Masters should be aware of, that they should start trying to?
We are trying to formulate that right now. Kind of the biggest problem from my perspective in building that is what Todd and Pam want is high level / granular at the same time, right? So you need the granular information to fill the high level what they want. Right now, a lot of the sprint teams aren't using the effort field, right, for either hours or the story point fields or story points. So I can give you a count of how many different work items you're working on, how many different work items a different sprint team's working on. But I can tell you you're working on 20 items, they're working on 30 items. But if you're working on 20 big items, then I don't have that view. And until I get that type of information, there's it just counts, right? Which from my perspective as someone who does a lot of this reporting in general and did it for a living for like 3 years, without having that second level of view, it's useless data and it creates more questions than creates answers.
Definitely.
So Brian's trying to push in general to using hours in the effort field at the production story level, which I'm philosophically against because it's kind of against the whole agile perspective, and that's what story points were created for. But he's concerned with the business not necessarily understanding story points versus hours. So that's a Brian Pam conversation, not a Thomas Scrum Master conversation. So that's kind of in general. So that's why
Okay.
I haven't pushed those reports out yet. So we have templates created, but without that second level of view, because I can do what Cherry does now, which is count work items and stuff like that, or start production backlog items and count tasks. But without, and the tasks obviously we have the effort hours, but we don't want to. But if you're not using it at the parent level, and I have a work item that's going to go through 3 sprints, it's harder to get that view to them yet. So until I can get that view, I don't want to show them something incorrect to start with, because then it's going to create a lot more questions and hassle for the other teams.
Well, at some point, weren't you trying to migrate some of the information from TFS into adaptive?
That's still a pending conversation. We can get the task data migrated. There's a price tag to that, so it's just a matter of Pam and Brian agreeing to that price tag / Harold Lewis signing off on that price tag.
So adaptive will be around still?
Brian's goal was to be able to export tasks, like whether it's yourself or whether it's someone on my team, migrating all the tasks that a team worked on and getting it loaded to a file with adaptive, so finance could pull all the information on adaptive, but you end users in the originations and customer-facing channels wouldn't actually need to go in adaptive to get hours logged. That was Brian's goal, just a matter of whether, and it's possible, but there's a price associated with it. So then Brian's next step would be to get that cost justified, so that Pam and Harold would sign off on it. So that's, again, above my pay grade. Because I'm not writing the check unless Brian wants to write the check, which I don't think Brian wants to either, because it is like a 5-figure check to get it moved. So that's
So there's no way in TFS that you could try to understand the hours and the
Well-
costs associated with the hours?
No, we can do it, like, and actually, I think it's in this TFS I can show you, we actually created fields in this TFS to do it, where you have your estimated remaining and actual work. Because right now, you only have remaining work as a field.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't tell me as a finance person or even as a manager, well, you said you said like initially it was 10, you had one field, right? And you burned it down to 0, well, did you spend 10 hours on it, or did you, actually it was only gonna be an hour of your day?
Yeah, that's always been the challenge with the whole TFS.
Yeah, like the biggest question was like after, okay, so I apply time to this task and then I move it to done, the numbers go away, where do they go?
Well, the history's there, I can pull the history, but the problem is it still doesn't tell me, I could like, on the history field it told me like, okay, you went from 10 to 0, but, I mean, granted, it's still user entry, but was that 10 hour actually right, or did it take you 12 hours?
Yeah.
So it's both ways, right? You're not getting credit as an employee for working more by burning down, because Bill had the example, you put 10, you worked for 4 hours, oh, it's way worse than I thought it is, so I didn't burn down at all. So I spent 14 hours doing it, but all the history is going to show is I went from 10 to 0. So it works both ways from an employee perspective, as far as you're not getting credit for all your work, and you're also potentially could, hide a bunch of work because oh, it's all 10-hour tasks, and I'm gonna take a 5-hour lunch and burn it down to 0. Right? So that's why we added those. I like that. That's the note we take. So the estimate is your initial estimate. Remaining work is the one, the field that's in there that's going to feed your burn down. And then so the estimate and actual works don't do anything within the TFS functionality for burn downs and charts. It's just data that we're capturing, right? So we can potentially compare estimate to actual. I'm from a philosophical, because I was talking about not using hours at a production backlog item level. Tasks makes sense to have those fields. Production backlog items is where Brian was going to try to put those hours, and that kind of defeats the purpose of a production backlog item or a story. Because then as soon as you start publishing numbers at that level, you're going to start become held accountable to them, which is kind of the problem.
So I don't know, I don't know if this is the right question for this meeting, but is the business being educated on how to create the backlog?
Yes. So I know Adam. So obviously the Greenlight business has already been kind of figured out that whole process.
Because our business
Really?
doesn't do that.
I thought they were.
Well,
No.
Okay, there's different teams. So support has, Sherry has her way of working with the business, which they are in meetings, and they get their backlog through emails and things like that. The
Okay.
Greenlight Web team, our team, has a little bit more challenge and has been, we're still working with figuring out how to get the business more engaged, and possibly on scrum calls, which would be the optimal.
Right. You need a backlog owner for a single, accountable person.
Right.
Okay.
So if you
so
didn't have an
it's-
engaged business, would you be extremely frustrated at some point?
Well, then Agile doesn't work.
Exactly.
So, in general. So that's.
Cha-ching!
Because then so your point, because that's the whole point of the Agile is that it's transparency to the business. If the business isn't transparent, then they wouldn't realize what's going. Like they're not actively involved, and there is no transparency. If that's what you're trying to get on record, but yes. So
It's recorded.
it's recorded. So in general, the other item as I went to a backlog item that you'll see, we added 2 more required fields. So title's always been required, it's required in every work item type. Description is now required, kind of makes sense. Acceptance criteria is required, given to the point that we don't always have that when we come in. The typical direction is if you don't have acceptance criteria when someone comes to you with a backlog item, just complete with TBD, because
So this
that
would be,
will get rid of the yellow.
I'm sorry,
It's
so
your only
this,
goal.
this would be, so for instance,
Does the
if,
space get rid of the yellow?
That's it.
That's
Space.
TBD likes to let other people.
So does it work in description too?
Oh, I'm sure it does. There you go.
How about in title?
Then this was a
No.
pretty
Alright.
quick.
Title. So I can look at the title one and add, so at least you need words. I can probably do that relatively quickly.
so from your, perspective, the description, I've used the word story sometimes as a description, but basically the title is the feature, the description is what that feature from a business perspective should do.
Correct.
And then the acceptance criteria, is that from a business perspective of this, their acceptance of this feature is,
Is following, yeah. So the Node team does a pretty good job at this. So, because that's like QA,
Holy formatting.
right?
That looks a whole lot different than ours.
There's text.
Just text. But that one's
I can't read it, but there's text.
It's like that must have been their first one when they were trying to migrate stuff around different. You know what happened? They migrated that from other
Looks like
projects.
there's supposed to be bullet points.
See, this is a placeholder one, so this isn't actually anything, right? Text is craziness. This is a task.
how about marketing?
Still formatting craziness, but a lot of these migrated, items got migrated around, because, or they're just loading them in Excel, and this is how it comes in when you just type in Excel and migrates through. But, I know we had a template for it, but I don't think he's using it where it's loading it from Excel. So I was trying to find one that was on there. Let's go to one of your guys, this some ones. So just, general, and then like I said, to get it completed, they completed TBD. So just simple, like what you're doing currently right now, probably in your project.
So who wrote that? Was that a business analyst, was that a product owner, was that a?
That was Rafi. Now-
Senior VP is writing the
No.
stories.
What probably happened is Rafi migrated it from one TFS to the other, so he was the person that created it. Like on 812, he probably, loaded it through Excel or whatever, but he took the description that was there and loaded it in.
Okay.
But to your point from where we're at, like, so in general, you have a review with your product owner and they go through your backlog with you and prioritize stuff.
It's not like we don't have those, we have those, we just,
Yeah, but
Not
we
engaged.
create it.
They're not engaged.
Yeah, we have, like, I don't know. Yeah.
So to answer the initial question is, again, my thought coming in from the Nationstar side was that the Greenlight in general was already engaged in the agile process.
Two teams.
Okay, so Adam's direction was to potentially bring, name escaping me right now, but your agile trainer, Riyadh, there you go. He was gonna try to bring him to Texas to engage him with the business owners there, so that they got, I call it the Riyadh Rah-Rah speech.
Didn't work over here, at least for our team it didn't.
Well, in general, that was his idea, was to have Ryan bring Riyadh down so that the business owners could see how it was working. And that's, in general, was the idea. I'm not sure if that's actually gonna come to fruition. I know it's one of the things Adam wanted to do from the Nationstar side, because they're used to the more waterfall methodology, and that potentially would get them off their hours kick and go more towards story points as a global view. But
story points will be challenging.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is that we've never used story points here.
we
A
need,
lot of people don't even know how it works.
Right, oh, and then the other problem with potential story points is there's 8 teams under Ryan, right, give or take. 8 points to you is different than 8 points to them, because it's a different effort level, right? So, at least it should be in the same ballpark, but it's not gonna be like, it's not like a chart that I wanna produce that says, 8 points equals 25 hours or whatever, I mean, stupid stuff, right? You don't wanna create that chart because then everybody, it might as well just be hours.
Concrete.
Yeah, it's concrete. And that defeats the whole purpose of story points. But, the problem with that though is if I'm doing a PAM level report, I need to have some type of thing that granularly shows your 20 different backlog items are compared to theirs, right? Justifies it. Because a lot of what we're trying to do from a finance perspective is, okay, we have all these people, what are they doing, and do we have enough work for them long term, right? Or what ends up being close to reality, we have too much work, we need more people if you want to get done faster. It's just having counts without anything else behind it, it's very hard to get to that finance number.
And just, I think probably people get more adventurous when they get the story points, the hours and all that. When they had waterfall, everything was like big sum, money.
Well, it's projects, right? So I have it's very project driven, right? I want to get this done, here's my project, I come through and I tell you, okay, so we have them on the servicing side, right? Okay, that project's gonna cost you 70 development hours, 70 times, the blended rate is $70, right? It's gonna cost you that much money, can you benefit, is that gonna get you a benefit or is it a regulatory reason? And then the project gets approved, yes, and then you go through and in your analysis, FRD, and everyone's billing hours to it, and if someone's tracking a budget. In this particular environment, we don't have any of that transparency, right? It's just to your credit, you're getting work done, it's just here, get work done. But now what Pam's coming in, and because it's coming from, the Harold level where, we're getting stuff done, but do we have enough bodies or do we have too many bodies? That's all they want to figure out. Or do we need to ramp up? How much work is actually, what's the backlog of work? And a count of backlog items doesn't really get you the backlog of work, because if we're chaining with numbers, you're like, oh, you want to give me more backlog items? Here you go, I can split this into 5 of you for you, right? So, just the count of backlog items, count. I can make a task of backlog item really easily, right? So, there's got to be some transparency.
Well, this is helpful.
And done by your 8:20 deadline. Or your 11:20 deadline.
Very good. 7 minutes in.